There's always been an attempt. We also remember we had the national ID card, which, well, some people don't have. But for some reason, well, we didn't continue with that. But you remember, you agree, being a security consultant, that well, security agencies also have a heck of a time trying to identify Nigerians, especially in border towns, especially those in the northeast. So when we talk about identify and those Nigerians around such places and all over the country, you say NIMC, NIMC should be in the forefront. But how do we start getting all of this and safeguarding such data collected from Nigerians?
Well, the records that NIMC is mandated by the Act to collect. Remember, we had national identification system under the former Emperor Olusegun Obasanjo that failed, and some ministers were again tried for corruption in delivering that. What NIMC did when NIMC had their first sensitization discussion in Abuja, I was privileged to be there, though I was denied the opportunity to ask a salient question. And my question at that particular point in time, for strategic security purposes, the records of Nigerians, including my record, that was taken from me at that particular point in time, who is holding that record? But for me not to steer an honest nest, we know that those records have taken flight out of Nigeria. We know that that record is no longer in NIMC's custody, and even what they have in their custody is not up to par with what was collected. Why did that happen? We don't know. But we have a new team in NIMC, and they could not explain that because they just inherited a record that was very shallow. I'm not trying to exculpate NIMC, but they must make it as a point of duty to synergize with National Orientation Agency, synergize with the various broadcast medias, and begin to tell Nigerians the importance of having your national identification card. And by now, they should have polarized the air so that Nigerians can begin to be part of the ownership of this project. Anything that you introduce in Nigeria that lacks ownership will never work. The people of Nigeria have been traumatized to the extent that somebody needs to guide them into any very comfortable projects that the government are bringing in. National identification is very important. Now, in describing the Northeast zone, as you have said, it is a very serious, challenging work for the NIMC. But not only Northeast. What about Northwest? The cultural affiliation between Niger Republic, between Chad and against Sudan and Nigeria dates back more than 1,000 years old. And to have a vibrant border where you can say this is a Nigerian and this is a Nigerian, this is a Chadian, this is a Nigeria, becomes very, very difficult and problematic. But it is going to take years to be able to ascertain that. Now, for the case of this discussion, the Northwest states of Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, and even Katsina have this annual wrestling tournament with Niamey in Niger Republic that attracts close to 2 million spectators from these particular border towns. How do you stop people from traveling because they don't have proper identification? It becomes very, very impossible, but doable. When there is ownership, when Nigerians in their own believe that this is important for us as a people and we must buy into it, then you come back again to certain areas of Northeast where out of religion, a woman is in Puda. How do you take photographs of her face? Except if you have gone in to work with the traditional council and train one of their own to be the one that is taking this identification for the purpose of identification, because you need, again, to reculture the hearts and mind of those people to believe that taking their photograph does not impugn in any manner, form, or shape on their religion. Have we done that? Now, having said all these things, my point again remains, where do you house these things? National Security Agency have to make a recommendation. The Senate Committee on Intelligence, House Committee on Intelligence need to sit down and say to ourselves, hey, are we going to look at the Homeland Security of American option? Are we going to look at the Homeland Secretary option of UK? Are we going to look at the Italian option? But what is wrong in Nigerian option? In having an agency that will bring all these things and put it in place and have an internal mechanism within those agencies to be able to see who have registered in various places with different names, with different faces, with different fingerprints, if that is possible. And then the process of elimination is done. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It is going to be a continuum. But the nation must buy into it.
Now, Mr. Gbanite, with all the challenges that you've enumerated, concerning our, concerning gathering information, registering our citizens in terms of, making them have an identity in our country, it would seem that it's not very appealing for the average Nigerian. I mean, when you think of the fact that you don't even know who houses your information, it's very unattractive for the average Nigerian to say, I want to willingly go and give my information. For instance, with the SIM card registration, if not that, a host of people will find that their lines will be cut off, maybe many people will not be registering. Do you think that coercion should continue to be the way we get Nigerians to register or do whatever it is that we want them to do?
Thank you for that question, Mope. Coercion under democracy should never be accepted. Education, reorientation is what we need. There are various publics in this entity called Nigeria. There is the tertiary institution public. There is the secondary school public and primary school public. And then there is the religious public. And then there is the civil servant public. And of course the elitist community. Therefore, those who are charged with the registration, first of all, without digressing, does the Director General of National Orientation Agency know what he's supposed to do? This is an agency that is tied to every facet of life in Nigeria. This is an agency that every agency in this country that needs to reach out to Nigerians should partner with. Now, do we have what we call national ideology where the NBC that will quickly shut you down if I say anything negative of government can now ask you to dedicate 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes in a week for public broadcasting system that again educates the Nigerian general public on their rights, their civic rights as citizens of Nigeria, their civic rights as indigents of their community. If you are able to reach out across board, then you know that Federal Radio Corporation and all the other private-owned agencies will be a veritable source for dissemination of information where Nigerians can be, again, advised to be part owners. I want to see President Jonathan and his vice president queue up in line like regular Nigerians and have their identification taken, and it becomes a public information. And then you'll be able to take all these things down, trickle down to the Nigerian public to buy into it. Coercion is out of fashion. And therefore, for road safety to come up and say that you must spend 25,000 to own a license plate or 8,000 to own a driver's license, even if they have the legal backing, it is wrong.